The sound of chalk scratched across a slate board. Sunlight slanted through two narrow windows. Dust floated in the air above wooden desks. Abigail Frost, the teacher, faced 20 small children. Abigail Frost kept her voice steady. "Copy the sums. Keep your lines straight." The children bent low over their slates. The door banged open. A figure stumbled inside. The children gasped. Abigail Frost froze, chalk still in hand. A boy no older than 10 stood there. His clothes were torn. His cheek was bruised purple. He clutched a small carved wooden eagle against his chest. The wooden eagle gleamed in the light. His hand shook as he held it tight, like it was his last piece of safety. Abigail Frost's eyes caught the token, then the boy's bleeding lip. Girl in the front row whispered, "Teacher, who is he?" Abigail Frost raised her hand for silence. "Sit still." The boy swayed. Abigail Frost moved quickly. She stepped forward, took him by the arm, and lowered him behind her desk. Abigail Frost crouched low. "Stay quiet, do not move." Heavy boots stamped outside. Shouts carried through the thin walls. "He ran this way! Check the schoolhouse!" The children stiffened. One boy dropped his slate. It cracked loud against the floor. Abigail Frost straightened, heart pounding. She looked at the class. Not a word. Her voice was sharper now, like a blade. The door handle rattled. Abigail Frost pressed one palm against the desk where the boy hid. She could feel him trembling. His grip on the wooden eagle pressed against her skirt. A soldier's voice barked outside. "Open this door." The class jumped. A younger child began to whimper. Abigail Frost snapped, "Quiet." She turned to the door, her jaw tightened. Then crack, a gunshot. The glass window shattered. Shards rained across the floor. Children screamed. Abigail Frost threw up her arm to shield her face. The smell of gunpowder burned in the air. The boy ducked deeper beneath the desk, both arms around the eagle. Abigail Frost's heart hammered. She scanned the room. Desks, chalk dust, and shards of glass glistened. She knew the soldiers were coming. One child sobbed. Another whispered, "Teacher, what do we do?" Abigail Frost looked at them all. Her face was calm, but her knuckles were white. She spoke low, almost a growl. "You do nothing. I will handle them." The sound of boots scraped against the porch steps. The shadow of a rifle passed across the broken window. Children's eyes went wide. Abigail Frost stepped forward, back straight, every muscle ready. The boy clutched the eagle harder. His breath came fast and shallow. Abigail Frost thought of her duty, children first always, but the danger was not outside anymore. The danger was here, inside, pressing against the walls of her schoolhouse. The latch clicked. The door began to swing open. The soldiers were already at the door. Glass crunched under boots. The children sat frozen, eyes wide. The boy still crouched beneath the desk, clutching the carved wooden eagle. Abigail Frost bent low. She whispered, her voice steady but urgent. "What is your name? Why are they after you?" The boy's lips trembled. His breath came in shallow bursts. "Tayan," he whispered back, "son of Matto, scout for the army. They killed him. They said he betrayed them. He never did." Abigail Frost drew in a sharp breath. The wooden eagle glowed in the lamplight. She glanced at the door. The handle rattled again. A heavy voice boomed outside. "Teacher, hand him over. That boy is a spy." The words struck like iron. The children whimpered. Tayan clutched the eagle tighter, his knuckles white. "My father carved this before he died. They shot him in the canyon. They blamed him for lies." His eyes burned. "I ran. They chase me now." Abigail Frost re-anchored her thoughts. The boy had a name. The boy had a story. The boy had a token carved by his father. Proof of blood and innocence. The door burst open. Two soldiers pushed inside, rifles raised. Behind them stood the commander. Tall and sharp, grey eyes cutting through the room. The commander scanned the class. "We know he is here." Abigail Frost stepped forward. "This is a schoolhouse. You will lower your weapons." The commander smirked. "The boy is no student. He is a runner for the tribes. He spies for those who ride against us." Tayan shook harder behind the desk. The eagle nearly slipped from his hand. Abigail Frost pressed her skirt back against him. shielding his small body. She faced the commander again. "Tell me, teacher," the commander said coldly, "would you risk every child here for one savage boy?" The class shifted. In their seats, a girl's slate slid and clattered. Abigail Frost raised her chin. "He is my student. I will not hand him over." The words cut the air. Silence filled the room. Even the children held their breath. The commander's jaw twitched. "Your student. I do not believe you." Abigail Frost held her ground. She re-anchored. In narration, Abigail Frost, the teacher, stood alone between soldiers and children. Abigail Frost thought of duty, of truth and of justice denied. One soldier raised his rifle higher. The children whimpered again. Abigail Frost's voice sharpened. "Lower that weapon. You frighten children. Do you call that courage?" The commander signaled with his hand. The rifle dipped, but tension hummed. Tayan's eyes peeked from under the desk. He whispered to himself, clutching the eagle, "Father, guide me." The proof token gleamed again, its carved wings catching the faint light. It was more than wood. It was memory, blood, and oath. The commander sneered. "If you lie, teacher, you will pay for it." He slammed his glove against the doorframe. Dust shook loose from the rafters. "We will return. The boy will not escape." Abigail Frost stared at him, steady. "He is my student." The commander studied her, eyes narrowed. Then he turned sharply. The soldiers stepped back, boots scraping across broken glass. The door slammed shut. The children gasped for air. Abigail Frost bent low to Tayan again. She touched the eagle in his hands. "Keep it close. It may be the only truth left in this town." Tayan nodded, tears streaking his dirt-covered face. The boy had carried his father's secret into this schoolhouse. Now Abigail Frost carried it too. The wind outside howled through the broken window. The sound of horses moved faintly in the street. The night pressed in. Abigail Frost drew herself tall. She looked at the children, then back at the door. The soldiers would return. The boy's secret was now hers to defend. She told them he was her student, and she would not hand him. "Over." The sun sank low, washing the town street in red light. Wagon wheels creaked over dirt. Soldiers patrolled with rifles across their shoulders. The townsfolk whispered in tight circles. Abigail Frost walked steady down the street. Abigail Frost carried her books close, but her name carried louder than any step. "The teacher hides an enemy boy," one woman hissed. "She brings danger to every child," another man muttered. Two mothers pulled their children away from the schoolhouse. The little ones looked back at Abigail Frost with wide eyes, but the mothers yanked them forward. Abigail Frost kept walking. She felt the eyes of the town on her back like arrows. At the blacksmith's forge, sparks shot into the air. The hammer rang against iron. Elias Ward, the blacksmith, lifted his head as Abigail Frost passed. Elias Ward wiped soot from his brow. His voice was low but sharp. "Teacher, you risk everything. Soldiers want that boy. They will punish anyone who shields him." Abigail Frost stopped. "I will not hand him over." The words came plain and cold. Elias Ward looked at her, eyes heavy with warning. "Then you must see this." Elias Ward reached under the bench. He pulled out a folded paper. The edges were torn. Dark blood stained the corner. He held it toward Abigail Frost with thick burned fingers. "I found this outside town. A courier never made it through." Abigail Frost took the paper. The blood-stained letter bore the commander's seal. She read aloud in a whisper, "Capture the scout's son, dead or alive." Her jaw clenched. "This order, it is not justice. It is murder." Elias Ward re-anchored his warning. "It carries the fort commander's mark, but I smell lies. Too much blood for truth." Abigail Frost's grip tightened on the paper. The bloodstain smeared against her thumb. She thought of Tayan, still clutching the wooden eagle in the classroom. She thought of his father's name, Matto, scout, executed without proof. The proof, token in her hand, now confirmed it. This was not law, this was corruption. The wind stirred dust across the street. Townsfolk leaned closer in their whispering clusters. One man spat on the ground. "The teacher will doom us all." Another muttered, "Better one boy than all our families." Abigail Frost turned her face toward them. "Would you sacrifice an innocent child to protect yourselves?" The crowd went quiet. No one answered. Her voice cut sharp again. "What kind of town forgets truth so fast?" Elias Ward tapped the hammer against the anvil, steel ringing. "You keep that letter close, teacher. If it falls to the wrong hands, the whole town will burn." The blood-stained letter shook slightly in Abigail Frost's hand. The paper felt heavier than iron. She slid it into her book and pressed it tight to her chest. Abigail Frost looked back at Elias Ward, the blacksmith. His face was set with grim certainty. Soldiers passed in the distance, boots drumming the dirt. Abigail Frost knew the fight was only beginning. If that letter reached the wrong hands, the whole town would burn. The sky burned orange as the sun slid low. Dust swirled in the street. The commander stood tall in front of the schoolhouse, his grey eyes hard. Soldiers formed a line at his back, rifles in hand. Abigail Frost faced him, her books clutched tight to her chest. The children had already been sent home. The commander's voice cut the air. "Teacher, you have until dusk. Surrender the boy or the town pays the price." The words spread fast. By the time Abigail Frost turned toward Main Street, whispers had already grown into shouts. One man yelled, "She puts us all at risk." Another hissed, "The teacher thinks she can stand against the army." The crowd split like a torn rope, half angry, half silent with fear. Abigail Frost walked quickly, leading Tayan by the hand. The boy still clutched the wooden eagle, proof of his father. His face was pale in the fading light. Abigail Frost whispered, "Stay close, I will find a safe place." They reached the old church. The door creaked as Abigail Frost pulled it open. Inside, shadows stretched long across the pews. Abigail Frost lit a lantern, the flame shaking in the draught. She pushed open the trapdoor to the cellar. Abigail Frost crouched and looked Tayan in the eye. "You will stay here. No one must see you. I will come back." The boy clutched the eagle tighter. "Will they find me?" Abigail Frost touched the carved wings. "Not if you trust me." The cellar smelled of damp stone. Abigail Frost lowered Tayan down. The boy's small feet landed softly on the dirt floor. She set the lantern beside him. Light flickered across his bruised face. Abigail Frost pulled the trap shut. She turned back into the street. Townsfolk gathered near the well. Abigail Frost spoke, her voice steady but loud. "The boy is not a spy, he is only a child. Will you help me protect him?" A merchant stepped forward. "If we defy the commander, we lose everything." A mother clutched her child. "Better we give him up than see the town burned." Abigail Frost re-anchored her plea. "What kind of town saves itself by killing a boy? What lesson do you leave your children?" The silence broke. A young preacher nodded. "I will stand with her." But others shook their heads and turned away. The crowd split again, courage on one side, fear on the other. A twist cut through the tension. One farmer slipped away, his eyes shifting, his steps quick. Elias Ward, the blacksmith, called after him. "Where do you go?" the man snapped. "To save my family." He vanished down the alley. Abigail Frost felt her stomach drop. The sun kissed the horizon. Shadows stretched across rooftops. Horses snorted in the street. Abigail Frost's deadline drew near. She looked toward the church steeple, heart pounding. Down in the cellar, the lantern flickered low. Tayan sat alone, the eagle pressed against his chest. He heard muffled boots above him. Then, wood creaked. The trapdoor lifted. The cellar door creaked open, and it wasn't Abigail standing there. The cellar air grew heavy. Boots pounded above. The trapdoor opened wider. Soldiers leaned down, rifles ready. Abigail Frost's eyes darted to the lantern. Flame flickered against damp walls. Abigail Frost made her choice. She seized the lantern, raised it high, and smashed it against the stone's glass shattered. Fire hissed out. The cellar dropped into black smoke. Soldiers cursed above. One shouted, "Get them!" Abigail Frost grabbed Tayan's hand. The boy clutched his wooden eagle with his other fist. Together they stumbled through the dark, coughing. From the smoke, Abigail Frost found the back crawl space and pushed him forward. Dirt smeared her palms as she crawled after him. They burst into the churchyard. Moonlight silvered the gravestones. Shadows stretched long across the ground. "Abigail." Frost pulled Tayan upright. "Run," she whispered. The boy's eyes flashed with fear, but his legs obeyed. Rifles cracked behind them. Bullets chewed the dirt at their heels. Abigail Frost dragged Tayan between headstones. Chips of stone flew as lead struck marble. The boy gasped, but clutched. The eagle tight. A soldier's voice rang out. "They're heading for the graves." More shots tore the night. Abigail Frost ducked low, pulling Tayan against a large cross-shaped marker. The air burned with gunpowder. Abigail Frost peered out. Soldiers spread across the yard, rifles raised. One soldier leapt forward, bayonet fixed. Abigail Frost braced, her arms shielding the boy. Then came the twist. Elias Ward, the blacksmith, charged from the side. His hammer swung wide, striking the soldier's rifle. Metal clanged. The soldier crashed into the ground. Elias Ward's chest heaved, his shirt soaked with sweat. "Go," Elias Ward barked. He lifted the hammer again, facing two more soldiers. Abigail Frost yanked Tayan and ran. Gravestones blurred past. The boy stumbled on a root. The eagle nearly slipped from his hand. Abigail Frost pulled him up quick. "Hold! Do not drop it." The boy nodded, breath ragged, eagle still clenched. Behind them, Elias Ward roared. His hammer cracked bone. A rifle fired, sparks lighting the blacksmith's forge-strong arms. He swung again, scattering men. Abigail Frost glanced back once. Elias Ward stood alone against three soldiers, iron in his grip. Shots ripped closer. Dirt sprayed across Abigail Frost's skirt. A gravestone split in half. Tayan whimpered, clutching the eagle to his chest. Abigail Frost tightened her hold on his wrist. "Keep moving." They reached the edge of the yard. The fence loomed. Abigail Frost shoved Tayan through a gap. She squeezed after him, her dress tearing on the wood. Soldiers shouted behind. Muzzles flashed, fire streaking the night. Abigail Frost stumbled onto open ground. The land stretched, bare and wide, lit only by stars. Her lungs burned, her legs screamed. But she did not stop. Tayan tripped again, falling to his knees. Abigail Frost hauled him up. His small hand was slick with sweat around the eagle. The boy's eyes filled with terror. "They'll catch us." Abigail Frost forced her voice steady. "Not while I breathe." A final volley of shots cracked. One bullet grazed Abigail Frost's sleeve. Fabric tore. She dragged the boy faster, heart pounding in her throat. Then, silence. The gunfire slowed. The night filled with a new sound. From the ridge above, a horn echoed. The warriors were coming. The horn blast rolled down from the ridge. A drum answered, deep and steady, shaking the ground beneath the town. Torches flared in the dark. Abigail. Frost gripped Tayan's arm and pulled him into the open street. Townsfolk poured from houses, faces pale. Horses thundered closer. Abigail Frost's name passed through the whispers again. "The teacher has brought this on us." Then the night broke wide. 80 riders stormed from the ridge, circling the town in a wide ring. Torches burned at the ends of spears. Hooves struck sparks on the stone. The riders shouted war cries, their voices echoing against the wooden walls. Soldiers scrambled into formation. Rifles clattered as they loaded. The commander's voice bellowed, "Hold your line." Abigail Frost pulled Tayan behind a water trough. The boy's small chest rose and fell in sharp gasps. His fist still clutched the carved wooden eagle, the first proof token. From the circle, one rider broke free. He rode tall on a painted horse, torch in one hand, spear in the other. His hair fell long over his shoulders, and beads flashed at his chest. The townsfolk whispered his name, Chaska, the warrior chief. Chaska slowed his horse before the trough. He scanned the crowd, then his eyes locked on Tayan. The warrior chief dismounted. Dust swirled around his boots. Chaska dropped to one knee before the boy. The town gasped at the sight. Tayan's hand trembled. Slowly he reached beneath his torn shirt. He pulled free a beaded necklace, the third proof token. Small shells and colored beads glowed in the torchlight. "My mother gave this," Tayan whispered. His voice cracked. "She told me never to lose it." Abigail Frost steadied him with one hand. "Show him, Tayan." Tayan lifted the necklace. High. The beads shook in his small grip, but the colors gleamed against the night. Chaska's eyes softened. He touched the beads gently with his calloused fingers. The warrior chief rose, turning toward the circle of riders. His voice boomed. "This is Tayan, son of Matto. His blood is true, his spirit is ours. No hand shall harm him again." The circle erupted in cries. Spears lifted, drums thundered louder. The townsfolk shrank back, pressed against walls and doorways. The EE commander spat into the dirt. "This proves nothing. The boy is still a spy." He raised his hand, signaling a rifleman forward. Abigail Frost stepped in front of Tayan, her arms spread wide. Chaska raised his spear, eyes blazing. The soldiers hesitated. Tension snapped like a bowstring stretched too far. Abigail Frost re-anchored her stance, her voice cutting through the night. "He is no spy. He is a child with the blood of the scout you murdered," the commander sneered. "One child against a town, one teacher against an army. You cannot win." The circle of riders closed tighter, hooves pounding like thunder, spears lowered, torches throwing firelight across the dirt. The air shook with heat and fear. Every man, woman, and child in the town froze. One wrong move would ignite the night. The warriors promised fire if one more soldier raised a gun. The torches of the riders lit the town in red and gold. Smoke curled into the sky. The circle of warriors pressed tighter. Horses stamped the dirt. Abigail Frost stood in the open street, her dress torn, her hands steady at her sides. Abigail Frost looked across the ring of firelight. The commander faced her, his grey eyes cold as iron. Soldiers formed a line behind him, rifles gripped tight. The commander raised his voice so all could hear. "Teacher, this ends now. Give us the boy or the town burns before dawn." His words cracked across the square like a whip. Townsfolk gasped. Some clutched their children close. Others shouted at Abigail Frost, "Do it! Save us! Give him up!" Their voices clashed with whispers of fear. Abigail Frost re-anchored her stance. The boy, Tayan, pressed against her leg, clutching the wooden eagle still in his small hand. The commander barked again. "Choose quickly. The boys. Life or every life in this town." He lifted his pistol skyward, firing a shot into the air. Sparks showered down. The townsfolk screamed. One man cried, "We cannot all die for one child." Another mother shouted, "End this madness, teacher." The circle of townsfolk split, half pleading for safety, half frozen with shame. Abigail Frost stepped forward. Her voice rang steady. "Take me instead. I will go in his place." The words struck the square silent. Gasps rose like a wave. Soldiers shifted. The townsfolk stared. Even Chaska, the warrior chief, tilted his head in surprise. The commander sneered. "You? What use is a teacher to me?" Abigail Frost answered. "You need someone to blame. You need a hostage to show power. I am that hostage. But the boy lives." Elias Ward, the blacksmith, strode out from the crowd. His hammer hung at his side, heavy and dark with blood from the fight. Elias Ward planted his boots beside Abigail Frost. His voice growled deep. "If you take her, you take me too." The commander laughed harshly. "Two martyrs? That will not save this town." He turned to the soldiers. "Prepare the fire. If they refuse, we burn it all." The crowd broke again. Some shouted at Abigail Frost, "Stop this!" Others cried out, "Stand with her!" Fear and loyalty tore the square apart. A preacher raised his Bible. "God's truth lies with the innocent child." But a merchant shouted back, "Truth does not save our homes." Abigail Frost raised her chin higher. She re-anchored the moment. Abigail Frost, the teacher, stood between a boy marked for death and a commander hungry for blood. Abigail Frost made her choice. The commander's pistol lowered. His words dripped with venom. "Teacher, do not test me. You cannot protect him. Forever." Abigail Frost stretched her hand back. Tayan pressed the eagle into her palm. She closed her fingers over the token, its carved wings biting into her skin. The memory of his father lived in that wood. The boy's bloodline stood in that necklace. Truth pressed in every symbol. Elias Ward lifted his hammer higher, steel gleaming in the torchlight. His voice shook the silence. "If you want her, you pass through me first." The commander gestured sharply. Soldiers stepped forward, rifles ready. The warriors around the town lowered their spears. The air snapped tight. The town now stood at the edge of fire and ruin. One wrong step would break it all. Abigail Frost stepped forward, ready to trade her life. The square held its breath. Torches flickered, spears lowered, rifles clicked into place. Every eye locked on Abigail Frost, standing in the firelight with Tayan at her side. Abigail Frost's hand gripped the carved wooden eagle tight. Tayan trembled, his small fingers gripping her skirt. Elias Ward, the blacksmith, stood beside them, hammer raised high. Across the line, the commander sneered, pistol ready. Then it happened. One soldier fired too soon. The bullet struck a warrior's horse. The animal screamed, rearing high, blood streaking its flank. The horse crashed to the dirt, legs thrashing. The circle shattered. Warriors charged. Spears flew like lightning. Soldiers raised rifles and fired into the flames. Torches flew through the air, crashing onto rooftops. Fire leapt upward, smoke curling black into the night. Abigail Frost yanked Tayan close and dragged him through the chaos. "Stay low," she shouted. Bullets tore the dirt. Horses thundered past. Tayan stumbled, clutching the eagle. Abigail Frost pulled him harder. Elias Ward roared like a beast. His hammer cracked against a soldier's rifle, splintering wood. Blood sprayed across his shirt. Elias Ward swung again, knocking a man sprawling into the dirt. Another soldier lunged, bayonet flashing. Elias Ward blocked with the hammer's handle, but the blade sliced his arm. His blood poured fast. The commander shouted, "Hold the line!" Soldiers fired blind into smoke. A torch exploded against a wagon. Horses broke free, screaming. Townsfolk fled, children crying. The preacher fell to his knees, arms lifted as fire spread around him. Abigail Frost shoved Tayan behind a toppled barrel. She crouched low, heart pounding. The eagle pressed against her palm, its carved wings cutting deep. "Do not let go," Abigail Frost whispered. Tayan nodded, wide-eyed. The warriors pushed harder, their cries shaking the street. Chaska, the warrior chief, cut down a soldier with his spear, firelight dancing across his beads. But for every soldier struck down, another raised his rifle. The clash roared like thunder. Elias Ward staggered, his chest slick with blood. A soldier slammed him to the ground, rifle aimed at his face. Elias Ward caught the barrel with both hands, muscles shaking, hammer just out of reach. He roared, twisting the weapon away, but his strength faltered. Abigail Frost looked back. Smoke stung her eyes. She saw Elias Ward on his knees. She saw soldiers closing in. Tayan clung to the eagle, whispering his father's name. The night spun into fire and screams. Warriors circled, soldiers fought back. Sparks rained across the town. Abigail Frost pulled the boy tighter against her, crawling through dirt and ash. Then she froze. The commander stepped clear of the smoke. His grey eyes locked on her. His pistol gleamed in the firelight. Slowly he raised it, aiming straight at Abigail Frost's back. The commander's pistol rose, aimed at Abigail's back. The square burned red with firelight. Smoke rolled between houses. Dead lay scattered across the dirt. Horses panted, sweat, steaming in the cold night. Abigail Frost crouched behind a broken barrel. Tayan pressed tight against her side. Abigail Frost's hand shook as she gripped the blood-stained letter Elias Ward had given her. The seal of the fort commander glared from the torn paper. The commander strode through the smoke, pistol still hot in his grip. His voice roared. "The boy is nothing. He dies tonight. Kill the teacher too if she stands in the way." Chaska, the warrior chief, stepped forward, spear in hand. His voice carried like thunder. "Show us the truth. Let every man here see the lies written by your hand." Abigail Frost rose from the dirt. Her face glowed with ash and firelight. She lifted the letter high so soldiers, townsfolk, and warriors could all see. "This order demands the death of a child," Abigail Frost cried. "This is no justice. This is murder signed in blood." The commander lunged forward, hand outstretched. "Give that to me." Abigail Frost's eyes flashed. In one motion, she hurled the blood-stained letter into the flames of a burning wagon. The paper curled, blackened, and burned to ash. The false words were gone forever. A hush spread. Even the clash of blades slowed. Chaska pointed to Tayan. "The boy carries proof not written in ink, but in bloodline." Tayan stepped forward. His small hands shook, but he lifted the wooden eagle carved by his father. The eagle gleamed in the firelight, wings outstretched. "My father made this before soldiers killed him," Tayan said, his voice thin but sharp. Chaska placed a hand on Tayan's shoulder. The warrior chief lifted the boy high onto his arms. The beaded necklace swung from Tayan's neck, catching the glow of fire. "The son of Mato stands among us. His father died for honor. His mother gave this necklace as proof of his blood. No soldier will take him now." The warriors cried out, pounding their spears against the earth. Sparks shot higher, but the soldiers shifted uneasily. Murmurs passed down their line. One young rifleman lowered his gun, his voice cracked. "Commander, we were told lies." Another shouted, "We killed his father under false orders. This child is no spy." The commander snapped, "Silence! Obey me!" He raised his pistol toward Abigail Frost. Then the twist. A soldier at his side raised his own weapon. The crack of the shot split the square. The commander staggered. Another soldier fired. The commander dropped his pistol, clutching his chest. Blood spread across his coat. The soldiers lowered their rifles, faces burned with shame. The commander collapsed in the dirt, his grey eyes wide, his lies finished. The warriors formed their circle again, but this time, no spears lowered, no torches threatened. Hooves beat slow and steady, a drum of mourning. The circle of riders rode once more, this time in silence. The first light of dawn spread across the valley. Smoke curled from blackened roofs. Ash drifted down like snow over the street. The battle was finished, but the town still trembled. Abigail Frost walked slowly through the square. Her dress was torn, her hands blistered, but her back stayed straight. The name of Abigail Frost carried through whispers, now not in blame, but in awe. Children peeked from doorways. One girl called, softly, "Teacher." Abigail Frost turned, her face tired but kind. She nodded. "Come, it is safe." More children stepped out, their small feet crunching in the ash. Tayan stood at Abigail Frost's side. His cheek was still bruised, his shirt torn, but his eyes no longer hid fear. Around his neck hung the beaded necklace, the proof token from his mother. In his hand he still held the wooden eagle, the token from his father. Elias Ward, the blacksmith, hauled heavy timbers onto his shoulder. His shirt was dark with dried blood, but he kept working. The hammer rang again and again as Elias Ward nailed new beams into place. Smoke rose behind him, but wood and iron sang of rebuilding. Abigail Frost guided the children back toward the bulwa, ruins of the schoolhouse. Walls still smouldered, but benches and books lay waiting. She raised her voice. "Lessons begin again. We will not stop because of fear." One boy asked, "Will the soldiers return?" Abigail Frost answered, steady, "Fear will always return, but so will courage." The children sat down in the dirt, slate boards on their laps. Tayan sat among them, an eagle still in his grip. Abigail Frost walked to the teacher's desk, blackened by fire. She set her books down. Slowly she lifted the carved wooden eagle from Tayan's hand and placed it on the desk. The eagle's wings spread against the rising sun. The town gathered in silence. Mothers, fathers, and neighbors watched as the children wrote their numbers again. Elias Ward's hammer struck in rhythm with the chalk scratching on slates. The sound of learning returned to the ashes. Abigail Frost re-anchored her stance at the desk. Her voice carried across the crowd. "One child's life matters. One truth matters. If we trade that for safety, we lose everything." She looked at the townsfolk, her eyes burning with fire of their own. "Would you have risked the same? Would you have stood for one child when an army demanded silence?" Abigail Frost gave the town no easy answer, only the carved eagle watching from the desk. The beaded necklace glimmered on Tayan's chest. The eagle sat high, wings carved open. Tokens of blood and love stood in the heart of the classroom, proof that one teacher and one boy turned fear into courage. The morning sun filled the windows. Ash fell softer now. The battle was over, but the lesson was only beginning. One teacher, one boy, and one wooden eagle changed everything.